Hey guys, it's been a long time since I posted a video. There's been a lot of new things happening. There's a new baby, there's a new Jeep. So before I get into the walk around of the new Jeep, I just want to give a history of the couple of Jeeps I've had in the last few years. The first Jeep that we're looking at is an '06 Sport. I bought it in Napa Valley, California. I flew out there for work, lived out there a little bit. Uh, I found this Jeep on the day that I flew out there. It was a super low mile, no rust, good options on it, 6 speed, 373, limited slip. So I went out there, bought it, moved home, shipped it back home, held on to it a couple of years until we had a kid, and then I sold it. I'd done a few things. I'd put the Spartan locker in the front. There's a video on that. I put the stereo in it. Just a few like small odds and ends. New wheels or new tires on it. But nothing really big. But it was just a really good, solid Jeep that I still wish I had. I think I'd put some V8 springs on it, but it made it ride horrible, so it ended up with a budget boost. Wish I would have held on to that Jeep. Ended up selling it. Here is the day that it drove away. Little side note, I actually traded this Jeep to a dealer for a couple days for this 15 Willys. I drove it around, decided it wasn't for me, so I went back and they had a thing where you could bring a car back within like 7 days. And so I took it back and got my Sport back. So the next Jeep is a 2005 Rubicon. It's the one that I had when I started the channel. It had some pretty good stuff on it when I bought it. It was really good, low miles, some stuff I didn't really like and had to fix. So I started tearing it apart pretty much as soon as I got it. Needed some ball joints. The interior was pretty good. It needed a new exhaust. The cat was kind of gutted, so it threw codes, which I don't really like. I like to fix any issues it has. But this was supposed to be the Jeep that I never sold. It doesn't always work out that way, but I'd put a lot of time and money into this Jeep. It ended up with half fenders at first. Didn't really like those. They tend to sling mud everywhere. And I like to run it with half doors. And so I put on 7-inch fenders, which did really great at keeping all that down. I had a cage in it. I'd modified a Poison Spider cage with my own harness bar. I'd put it in so I could run harnesses and seats. It had a hard top eventually. Had a khaki one at first, and then ended up with black at the end of everything. Had the Genrite hood vents, which worked really well. It had a roll-on bed liner that was horrible at first, so I spent weeks scraping it off. I sprayed a Raptor liner in. It ended up being really good. It was a really good Jeep overall. It had a full metal cloak, 3.5-inch lift on it, sway bar disconnects. It was good. But things just kind of ended up. We had another kid, and I couldn't get 2 kids and a wife and gear in the back of a TJ. So as much as I hated to, I ended up having to sell it. You can see here it has the Mopar bumpers on it, which are pretty uncommon. I didn't really care for them. It ended up having Poison Spider bumpers on the front and the rear. Had a few other things. One of my favorite things I did to it was a full tummy tuck. That really helped, especially with only having 33s. Here's pictures of as I sold it. You can see I pulled some stuff off. You can see the tummy tuck here. But now that it's gone, this leads me into the newest Jeep. So what is the new Jeep? It is a 2006 Jeep LJ Unlimited. What can I say about this one but what a piece of junk. It squeaked, it rattled, the tires were bald, the paint was bad, it had awful accessories, had a rough country suspension that had been spray painted, the cage had been spray painted, the inside looked and smelled like a homeless encampment. It was rough, it was a hard sell. The top didn't fit, but it was all there. It was rough, but it was clean. No rust. So I bought it, I brought it home, stripped it out, pressure washed it right away. I sprayed a Raptor liner interior. And once I had that, I could really kind of see what I had. It was a great foundation. It cleaned up super well. And I actually had both of the Jeeps for a while, as you can see here. So once I decided to keep the LJ, I started to change out a few parts. I pulled the fuel cell, a few other odds and ends off the Rubicon. I moved it over. The LJ had this awful chrome gauge thing that reflected all the light. It was horrible. So through eBay, I found a new cluster. Swapped some parts around to get the mileage right. Got it clean. You can see the dash. It cleaned up super well. It was all there. The seats were a little wore out, as they tend to do on the Jeeps. But mechanically, it was sound. The AC worked. I had to replace the PCM. But once I decided to keep it, I had to start tearing it apart. I found a Dana 44 out of a Rubicon at front axle in Texas at 488s and an E-locker. So I bought it. I had it shipped up here. I started to re-gear the rear end. I've never done a re-gear before, but it's really not that hard. Just take your time. I went with an Eaton E-locker. And for those of you who are unaware, a 3/1000 of shim will slice your thumb off. Ask me how I know. But overall, it really wasn't that bad to set it up. Swapping the axles out from underneath the Jeep was harder than the re-gear process. So once I had some of the mechanical stuff done, I had to focus on some other things. I traded around. I got some Gladiator Rubicon takeoffs. As I said before, I'm not a fan of the flat fender thing, so I was able to find a set of black fenders down in Georgia. I got those swapped out. That was actually kind of a bit of a process. It ended up, I think it was worth it. I think it looks way better in stock form. But then I had to address the tires again. So I traded around. I found a guy in Georgia who wanted mine. He traded me his wheels, and I got some new 35-inch Cooper STT Pros. And this is basically how it sits today. I've had it off-road a little bit. I've done a few more mods. We'll see on the video here in a second. So here's how the Jeep is right now. I've done a few more mods, and I'm going to go over those. It's got a new Trek top, Best Top NX, with the flip back top. The best one in my opinion. The new wheels and tires. There's my co-pilot. I'm checking the tire pressure, making sure everything's up to her high standards. And that kind of leads me into probably my favorite mod is the kids' booster bucket seat. It allows her to sit up front. She has her own little harness, so she's a lot safer than just having her in the front with a lap belt, which I don't even have anymore because I don't have seat belts. I have harnesses in here now. You see the inside's pretty clean. The paint has been corrected. It came out really nice for the most part. The Poison Spider bumper was moved over from the Rubicon. The Warren 9K winch was moved over, as were the fog lights. You can see the seats. These are my badges from Windrock. I'm local to the park here. The seats are Corbeau JP wide seats. I have the Rock Hard harness bar. Very nice piece. Very surprised when I got it. The Corbeaus are just bolted on the factory sliders. It raises you up just a little too high, in my opinion. I'm 5'11". It could stand to go down about an inch and a half. The gauges I've replaced, a nice factory look. There's the aftermarket stereo. This is just an 8-inch LG tablet that I use for maps. My homemade GMRS mount. There are the factory style switches for the lockers, the winch controller, the voltage gauge, and a USB port. Inside the console, I don't have a sub, so I have the big open console. It's a 3D printed tray, so all the stuff I need is always at the top, and then I've got storage underneath for battery booster, cables, anything else I would need. Very handy little thing I found on eBay, somebody selling those. Here you can see the back of the LJ, just the standard, more space, the factory sound pods. Not a big sound guy. The mirror is actually a 2000s model Silverado mirror. It has a temperature and the compass in it. It bolts right into the Jeep, uses the same mount, 2-wire hookup. Here's the Extron's head unit. I went with this one because I did not want to have to get a doubled-in dash replacement. I didn't want to have to cut up the dash. The screen on this one is plenty big, and actually I like the buttons way more than having the digital buttons. I have to press those when you're bouncing around and everything. Just a good head unit. Here you can see the lights on the switches. They're always wired to power, so I can turn on and off the lockers even if the Jeep dies on me or something. The locker lights are actually wired into the dash. I don't have a video of that. Here's the back of the Jeep. This is a Smitty built XRC bumper. I'd like to replace that. Not a fan of having to open 2 things to get into the back. So we'll see how that goes. Opening the back of the Bestop is a breeze. Way better than a Rampage if you have a choice. This organizer is just a generic organizer off Amazon. Has all my recovery gear. That air tank, if you have any questions, leave a comment. I'll go into detail about what it is, how I made it. It's pretty useful though. Here's some footage of just the back of the LJ. You can really tell how much more space it has, especially going from a TJ. I think it's only like 14 inches overall, but for on-road and off-road performance, it really does make a difference that you can tell. Here's the backup camera that goes up to the head unit. It's a little bent. That's just for me kind of using the hitch as a pivot as I crawl underneath it. Next, we're going to look underneath it. Look at the skid plate, the Genrock cell. I think it gives you an extra an inch or inch and a half or 2 inches of clearance. The aluminum G2 cover. We'll see how aluminum does. Brand new calipers and rotors around. Just every new Jeep I get, I pick its brand new brakes just because. The tires are Cooper STT Pros. They're 12.5 at 50/15s. Great tire, had them on the Rubicon. The suspension hits the rough country arms that have been shortened, and UCF brackets welded on to fix all the geometry. There's the Rudana 44, the CV drive shaft, SYE. The drive shaft is a hybrid. An Adams and a local company had to lengthen it. It was for a TJ. I traded a buddy. I got some stuff. The front arms are just stock with the UCF brackets, extended brake lines. All the joints have been upgraded to Johnny joints as opposed to the rough country joints. If you can see the back, I've got a leak on the diff. I think it's from the hole for the wires of the E-locker. There's the front at 44. Things huge compared to the 30. The drive shaft had to be shortened. I'm going to go around now, look at the front. It's actually missing a component here. At points if you can tell me what it is. But it has a Fox stabilizer, the G2 cover, JKS disconnects. There's my dog barking upstairs. Has the ZJ tie rod upgrade on it. Under the hood, pretty stock. I got rid of the K&N. I added a fuse, like distribution block. This makes it really easy and clean to wire up things. And if you do have a short or I'd blow a fuse, those lights in the middle light up. That make it a lot easier to find any issues that you have going on. The thing just costs a couple bucks off Amazon. There's a headlight harness. You can kind of Google that. It basically just sends power straight from your battery to the headlights through a relay, as opposed to the factory wiring. A lot brighter. That's a custom bracket I made to hold the solenoids for the relays, for the lockers. Put it on that handy little tray there. It's got a throttle body spacer on it. It came with that. Whatever. But basically, this is the LJ, guys. I've got a few more things planned. There's a cage in the garage there and a barn skid. So any questions, let me know. I try to reply to every comment. But yeah, I hope to have more videos coming out soon. So if you like what you saw, feel free to like the video, and subscribe if you want. So yeah, leave a comment and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.